Hello, warriors. Welcome to the U movement. I am B, and it's a beautiful day here in Canada, which is fantastic to be able to get out and get some light codes. Doing some puttering around the garden feels fantastic. So energy is on the rise again. I'm enjoying that. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the issues that were addressed in yesterday's group support meeting. I don't film those so that anonymity and privacy can be maintained by the participants within the group. And it's far too much editing to, divide out, because it's an open, free-flowing conversation at this stage. So I'll just bring kind of the highlights of the meeting in the next day's video. Before I do that, if you're wanting to join the Spiritual Warriors Support Group, we meet on Zoom twice per week, Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays at 11 a.m. And we would love to have you join us. If you're just curious and want to hop in and get a vibe for it, your first meeting is free. After that, I kindly request a donation of $11.11. That said, yesterday we were, one of the themes that came up and that has been circling in my mind is the concept of acknowledgement. And in this particular case, we were talking about the acknowledgement that is needed for healing, especially in relation to loss. And on this journey, we experience a lot of loss, and whether that be through death or through relationships disintegrating, there is a grieving process that is attached to that. And traditionally, we as a culture would have had much larger ceremony to recognize death with funerals and wakes and graveside participation, and there'd be an expected period of time where a widow would wear black, and in doing all of that, there was an acknowledgement. People would send their condolences, flowers would be sent, food would be delivered, and there would be an expectation that the widow or the relation of the person that had passed away was allowed to have a period of time that was grieving. And that went up to like a full year in many cultures, for a full year, and sometimes beyond that. I can remember when I was traveling as a single mom in Portugal, it was I would get a lot of looks because people saw a single woman traveling with a child. So they made the assumption, well, then your husband must have died. So why aren't you dressed in black? And well, I didn't have a husband. Unfortunately, my son's father left 3 weeks before I gave birth. So I just wore whatever I wanted to wear. But yes, it stood out because there are still cultures around the world that have the acknowledgement and anticipation that, they'll see certain situations and they'll be like, oh, you're in grieving, you're in mourning, I honor you. I honor the emotion that you are in. But sadly, acknowledgement is an energy that has been slowly getting chipped away from more and more and more in our society, not just in relation to grief and grieving, but in relation to all traumas, because loss is a trauma. It causes a profound emotional response, whether that be, loss through death or loss through divorce or loss through, a parent abandons you or loss through adoption. There's many forms of loss. There's even losing friends that you were close with for many, many years. But we don't acknowledge all of those, obviously we would say to a parent that lost their child, oh my God, that's horrible. I totally acknowledge your loss. But there's an expectation now in society where there is less and less acknowledgement on the valuing of the loss or the valuing of the experience, where all traumas and all experiences should be valued, should be honored, and should be acknowledged. And that includes, if we take a broader look, if we step back and look at how acknowledgement plays out in regards to trauma in our culture, there is this underlying anticipation that we should get over it, we should move on. It happened a long time ago, that's got nothing to do with me, what's your issue, you must be disordered, go to the doctor, anything like that, which is the opposite of acknowledgement. And it's, as I said, it doesn't just permeate in regards to loss, it also is in reference to all your traumas, your individual traumas, as well as societal and cultural traumas. You know, my one of my soul sons is Black, and I am observing through him, you know, some of the experiences that he's having, you know, and it's still very, very prevalent, where there's this racist undertone in our society, and he's experiencing horrific things. And if we don't acknowledge what came before, we cannot change or heal in the present moment. So we have to acknowledge that what we did to, as a society, as a human race, what we did to Black people was horrific. The atrocities that are absolutely vile. What we did to people that weren't of Aryan race in the Jewish time, in the Holocaust, was atrocious. And there's been more than one Holocaust in the world, not just Jewish people, but Jewish people is kind of the biggest or most known. You know, that is still a trauma that exists within us, exists within the collective consciousness. If you're a part of the Native population, there are still, to this day, atrocities happening. You know, my background educationally was a Native-based program, and I was up in Northern Ontario, where I was very aware of the historical background of what happened to Native peoples all over the world, not just in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the United States, South America, countries within South America, countries within Africa. You know, colonialism spread out and did devastating things. And even as near as 20 years ago, I'm not even sure how long ago it was that the last residential school closed in Canada, but the influence of residential schools is still a generational trauma that's passed on. And then we have mass amounts of women that in the Native communities that are still to this day going missing, and we're not acknowledging that as widely as we should. And as a whole in society, so we have these colonial traumas that have left lasting issues in many cultures, resulting in cultural traumas, generational traumas, and then we also have traumas that have been perpetuated by the church. And when I lived in Ireland, you know, that was a big issue that we were just starting to acknowledge the devastation of all the sexual abuse that occurred in the church, which also, you know, has these ripple effects out, because where an individual may have experienced sexual abuse within the church, once they had that trauma could be perpetuated out within the family and became a generational curse, because, you know, traumas get passed on like the family silver. And then we also have societal ideals and expectations in regards to the traumas that women have faced for hundreds of years that we refuse to acknowledge still to this day. And it bothers me that as soon as women try to speak up and say their truth about their traumas, there's this, attitude that, oh, it's the war on men, or oh, it's there's a pushback, a kickback. So anytime somebody tries to stand up and speak out about their traumas, whether it's personal traumas that happen to them or generational traumas that happen to them and their families lines, or cultural traumas that happen to them and the community of people that they collectively resonate with, or as a whole, as a woman, which is, 50% of the population. And these traumas, if we do not acknowledge them, it is a breeding ground for them to continue. So what can we do about this? Because when we try to stand up and speak our truths and we get kickback and there's a lack of acknowledgement, it pushes the individual to go within self and shut down almost. In the process of, as I've said with many of my videos, we need to learn to cultivate these energies within us. And for me, as somebody that, has carried multiple traumas of loss, traumas of abandonment, traumas of sexual abuse, traumas of, for a very long time, I believed I was part of the native population because I was adopted and told that I was Métis. And so my whole life I grew up believing that. DNA testing that I've since had shows that I have very little, I'm mostly French, but even that doesn't resonate with me anymore. So, I carried cultural trauma in the belief that I was Métis. And I suppose in a small amount I am, but I don't really try to claim that as my culture anymore. I put that label down, and I certainly did not pick up, that I am French. I've picked up the I'm not human label. I am something bigger than that, but that's a totally side note. So I've had these traumas in my experiences, and then I've had the trauma of being a woman, and I'm going to acknowledge it for me. In the role of the divine feminine, and I've been sitting and asking myself this question, what is it to be feminine? And I've been asking that question for a good few years now because of all these traumas that I have experienced. And in acknowledging my own traumas, in acknowledging my inner child, in acknowledging my wounded teenager, in acknowledging my wounded women that have experienced atrocious behavior at the hands of men. And it's not that I hate men, it's far from it. I've always resonated more with masculine community than I did with feminine community because I thought that I was safer there. Because what I experienced as a child was a lot of bullying within the female community and a lot of gossiping and a lot of betrayal. So I moved myself and gravitated into hanging around and being one of, the boys' girl, hanging out with the lads. And because of that, I experienced a lot of what the boys' room chat is like. And I also experienced, as a woman trying to navigate in the world, dating with men, a lot of bullshittery, nonsense, nastiness. How we view our whole coupling process is something that needs to be acknowledged. This imbalance between this, and it's all power dynamic, right? At the end of the day, when there isn't an acknowledgement from the opposing individuals or culture, then you can't bring things back into harmony. So in our society, we need to acknowledge, Black people have had it harder than white people. We have to acknowledge that the native population has been completely, as close to annihilation as a culture can get. because it infiltrated like every single aspect of that culture, taking children away from the family unit and into these residential schools where they could get their culture like literally beat out of them. We have to acknowledge what it is to be a female in a patriarchal society where it is not only propped up to minimize, devalue, treat women like hypersexualized toys that are not even recognized within their humanness. There's no sense of honor that they are given. And women learn through this process from a very young age to dishonor themselves, to not acknowledge themselves, to shut down their own needs, wants, and everything else, because they have to fit in a society that isn't acknowledging the fact that they have been taken off of their divinity and put into the ditch. And yes, no, not every woman on the planet has been treated with disrespect, but a large majority have. If you look at statistics at how many women are even like announcing that they've experienced sexual assault, sex abuse, or molestation, incest within the family home, or sexual harassment in the workplace, some form of degradation, dating practices, I can guarantee that the statistics aren't even anywhere remotely accurate to how much date rape actually happens. You know, that the pressure, the pushing, the come on, you know, when a woman's actually not interested in sexual intercourse. I know for myself, sometimes it was easier to just say yes, because in saying no, that could have put me in harm's way, or in saying no, it would have been much more of a hassle. And so I think a lot of women say yes to things that they would really rather prefer to say not. So sexual, the reporting of sexual incidents is very small. And I'm not saying that men haven't also experienced these types of things, because I think it's unfortunately something that has been infiltrated into society at such a deep level that it influences it in so many ways. And sorry, the dogs were going at it there for a minute. My point of today's video is trying to refocus the fact that we all need to acknowledge the hurts, the abuses, the inappropriate behavior, not just of our own wounds, but also what we've done, the woundings that we may perhaps have done to others along this process. And you know when you've done something inappropriate to somebody, and reaching out and saying, listen, I'm acknowledging that what I did was a hurtful act to you, is a fantastic way to create healing, because many people are sitting and waiting for their wounds to be acknowledged from others. So if you can offer that to somebody, that is an exceptionally brave and warrior move to make. The AA program has some useful tips, and that's one of them is, making amends to those that you've hurt. Because a lot of us are waiting for apologies and acknowledgements that we've never received, that culture has never given us as a whole, so our perpetrator has never offered the acknowledgement that what they did was wrong or apologized for it. I'll never receive a apology for the rapes, but I can acknowledge myself and support myself and re-parent myself and love on the woman that experienced those horrific experiences. I may never experience apologies for the extent of the abuses that well, I won't, because one of those people is dead, and the other two, words would mean nothing to me after 10, 15 years of lies. So I'll never receive a true degree of acknowledgement for many of the abuses that I've endured in life. And so in the process of my self-healing has been a stage of self-acknowledgement. And that is very necessary, because if society is telling us to get over it, and to move on and to let go, and it happened in the past. That happened last century. That didn't. I wasn't there, so I didn't do it. There's a lot of negating what people experience through personal traumas, cultural traumas, generational traumas, ancestral traumas. So we have to, as an individual, start acknowledging the hurts and the pains and the truths, and stop the self-shaming, the self-guilt, the self-beating up, the self-anger, the self-rage, and put it back out where it needs to be. And when I say that, I don't mean, like going and beating people up, your people did this to my people. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is, in acknowledging ourselves, in loving ourselves, in showing ourselves compassion, and taking the time that we need to honor the aspects of ourselves, we begin to heal. And the anger that is rightful, justified, and everything else, we can begin to push out of us. Okay, so tools to push anger out of us, so that we can then step in our truth and speak from authenticity, calmly, rationally, and begin a dialogue. And whether that dialogue be, standing up and Black Lives Matter, or standing up and supporting all of the Native communities, and stepping out, All Children Matter movement, and the Red Hand movement for the women that have been silenced and lost. We don't even know where they are, and the question is, anyone looking for them? Maybe you're part of the Jewish community and you want to start, speaking up and saying how that has affected you. When we can speak from a place of clarity, or maybe even as a woman, is like the Me Too movement kind of opened the door a crack, a teeny tiny crack, just by a small little hashtag. But there's much more dialogue that needs to happen, because especially in regards to the interactions between feminine and masculine, because that permeates absolutely every single human on the planet, in every single way that we date, the way that we marry and have relationship, what we think is appropriate, what we don't, all our beliefs around it, how we raise our children, what we raise our children to believe in relation to men and women, divine feminine, divine masculine, or toxic masculine and toxic femininity. These are all conversations that need to be had. And we have them once we go through the natural grieving cycle of acknowledgement. So we allow ourselves to acknowledge what was lost, and maybe that was a person outside of you, or a dream of how you wanted your life to be but wasn't, or for what was the innocence that was perhaps lost, or maybe it was your dreams of how you wanted your marriage to look, or your dreams of how you wanted certain relationships to play out. Those are all losses that need to be acknowledged and honored. And when we do that with ourselves, we begin the healing process. And step 2 is taking that anger that is rightfully in you and releasing it, going to places like a rage room and releasing your anger that way, or going into the forest and screaming, writing letters to people for what they've done to you, for the crimes that have been done against you. Write a letter out. I've written many, many letters over the last few years to people, and then you burn them. You don't give them to the people, because some of those people are still in toxicity, and the last thing you need is for them to negate you. So don't give them the opportunity to do that. If somebody comes in and offers you apologies, that's a different type of vibe. But if you are like seeking acknowledgement and apologies and something from somebody else, and they haven't come in, they haven't initiated that, you put yourself in harm's way. So please don't do that. Instead, write them a letter. And then burn it. Use the energy of the fire to transmute it. Get your Rage Against the Machine dance music on, and I have a heavy duty playlist for that, and just start, releasing. There is something positive about thrash music and heavy metal music and heavy duty angry vibes. Put some music on in your bedroom and have a one-person mosh pit. That's one of my favorite ways to transmute anger, because anger is a natural stage in this process. So, first we have to acknowledge it, then we have to honor it, and then we have to release it. And releasing is going to look differently for different wounds. There may be a stage of releasing it through purging of tears and needing soft, gentle energy. I can remember, because I've talked a lot about soul retrieval, and it's like I visually see who I'm retrieving when I'm retrieving that energy. And when I was retrieving my divine feminine back to me, man, she was not in good shape. Like, I visually could see her, and just she's a very frightened woman, is what she is now. She does not come out as often as I would like, because she's been so traumatized. So that brings me to the last kind of point, is it takes time. It takes a lot of time. It's going to take me a lot of time to feel safe in the company of men. I don't. I just don't. I don't feel safe in the company of men. Even in conversation with men, I've had men come in and try to be very friendly with me. And when I start to see it veer, I'm like, okay, bye, block, done. Yeah, and that's going to take, so it takes a lot of time to let somebody come close in again after you've experienced so many traumas. And while the traumas are releasing is not the time to be going out and dating and looking for other people. You need to give yourself time to integrate and acknowledge all of the pain and the suffering that you've been through. There's a reason why, in the traditional form of grief, when there's a death, a widow doesn't start dating the next week. He takes a widower. They take their time. It's usually anticipated that you take about a year. And I agree with that. No matter what the loss is that you're experiencing, or no matter what aspect of yourself you're reintegrating, is give yourself at least a year to just honor yourself, honor what was lost. And it may take longer than a year. It's been much longer than a year for me. And because going through the process of being love bombed continually in my life, and then having people disappear, or having people betray me, the wounds that I now acknowledge, where before I didn't acknowledge them. Before I was like, oh, well, next, I'm going to just move on. I'm okay. Everything's fine. I was an everything's finer kind of person, always. And all that does, if you don't take time to acknowledge your wounds, to take time to process and purge all of the emotions, whether they be wet ones or angry ones, whether you don't take all the time that you need, is you end up perpetuating it again, and it could be in a much worse situation. So we need to acknowledge ourselves, we need to acknowledge others, and we need to hold space for ourselves and hold space for others in this process of learning to step out of the and rise above into a world where we can be natural, normal, healthy, and respectful of each other and what each other has gone through and is going through on this incredible awakening journey that brings everything up to the surface. So today, I just want to acknowledge all of you for what you have endured in your life. I know if you're watching my channel that you have endured horrific childhood experiences. You have endured, if not emotional, physical, sexual abuses that have kept you in a wounded state that maybe even you weren't willing to acknowledge for a long period of time because you were told, unfortunately, and indoctrinated into thinking that, you know, you had to get over it. And in getting over it, all that we actually did was repress it. And so now if it's coming up, it is for you, for your own healing. I acknowledge the healing work, and I honor the healing work that you are doing. Each time you sit in something and you cry, or you feel the fear, or you feel the anxiety, or you feel the anger, I know how difficult it is to do that job. What you are doing is transmuting and ending the cycle, ending the legacy that was, you know, handed to you from your perpetrator, from your family line, from your cultural line. You are saying no. You're putting a wall up and saying this ends now. So every time you're doing the healing work and expressing the emotions and acknowledging yourself and holding your inner child and letting your wounded woman lie in a hammock and just rock, and giving yourself the space and the isolation and to reprogram your nervous system so that you can cultivate safety within. This is all helping you step into your power, into your alignment, so that you can communicate your truth in bravery, in honesty, in integrity, because the world needs to hear your stories. The world needs to hear the truth. We can no longer, as a humanity, deny, distort, repress. All that's doing is causing a sicker and sicker and sicker society with, you know, worse addictions than ever before in society, and worse disorders. I don't actually believe in disorders anymore, sorry, but I don't. I believe that yes, there may be some incidences of people that have actual mental issues, but I think the majority, in my personal opinion, and I'm not a psychiatrist or a doctor, but my personal opinion is that the majority of diagnoses for depression, anxiety, is all really a form of PTSD or complex post-traumatic stress disorder. I believe in those disorders. Even, you know, a lot of ADHD, autism, OCD, and everything else is not, you know, it's not born of like genetically something being wrong with you. It's born of being a heightened empath, or somebody with heightened sensitivities, which is like an upgrade, that has then experienced a lot of traumas because they didn't fit in a society that said your sensitivities are welcome. It's been not acknowledging those sensitivities. You know, stop whining, stop complaining, I'll give you something to complain about, and minimization. So we were born starseeds, lightworkers, empaths, sensitives, neurodivergents. We're all born to be in an energy that is got heightened sensitivities, heightened awarenesses, a higher way of looking at things. This is an upgrade as far as I'm concerned, so therefore it is not a disorder. And the more we've drawn attention to disordered ways of doing things, there's been that kickback. Is what has occurred, and so as a result of the kickback, there has been traumas, bullying and minimizing, gaslighting, all of these types of things. So a large majority of disorders are complex post-traumatic stress disorder. That's the one disorder that I think that everybody has, because especially if you're on the spectrum, because your gifts, your sensitivities, your talents, your know-how of, seeing pattern recognition or being able to recognize that something's mean has landed you into a world of hurt. So in this melting pot of a whole bunch of traumatized people walking around traumatizing other people using maladaptive coping strategies, nobody's acknowledging the root cause of the problem. And if we don't acknowledge the roots of all the problems, whether that be, as I've said, the roots of loss in society and how all of that encompasses, the roots of cultural, horrific cultural historical background because of colonialism all around the world, the roots of religious institutions going into different cultures and causing a lot of devastation within cultures, the roots of other family passed down traumas. If we don't start acknowledging everything, nothing is going to get healed. So I'm honoring all of those of you that is doing the self-acknowledgement work, so that you can stop the cycles and then heal from the stuff, and then stand in your truth and call it out. Call it out. Call it out. One of the best memes I ever saw was, it's not defamation when you're talking about the truth. I just wanted to leave that in silence for a minute, because a lot of people are like, I don't want to talk about it. Because when they talk about it, they get minimized. And now we are moving into new energies. Now is the time to talk about it. Mercury is not in retrograde anymore. Now is the time to say it how it is. When you do this, it hurts me. When my family did this, it hurt me. When I experienced this, it hurt me. When this happens, I don't want this anymore. Whatever it is, we are going to start being a little bit more empowered from this point forth in this Aries energy, and bring us in to a place where we can start to communicate the truth. Because ultimately, when we communicate, that's the ultimate acknowledgement. That's the ultimate acknowledgement of saying, I'm honoring myself so fucking much that I'm going to say it how it is. And I don't care who likes it, because it is the truth. I am acknowledging the truth of what happened to me. I'm acknowledging the truth of what happened to my people. And I'm going to speak up and stand out and say, no, this isn't going to continue. And the more people that do this, look at how many millions of Me Tooers there were. The more people that do this, the more we shift and change paradigms. The more we say, that's not acceptable behavior. I'm not tolerating that. I'm not putting up with that. I'm going to keep myself in a safe place until, you people can either change and do your own healing work and face your own stuff, or I'll meet new people that can, treat me with honor, treat me with respect, treat me with integrity, treat me with respect, and acknowledge what I've been through. If you need help and you would like somebody to hold space for you while you speak your truths, and because I know it can be very challenging, I am here to do that. Feel free to book a one-on-one with me if you do, and we can set up a nice safe container for you to practice speaking your truths. I want to thank everybody for acknowledging me as I have spoken my truths, and thank you very much for the support that I have received on my own journey. And thank you very much for all the likes, the shares, the subscriptions, the supers. Like, really appreciate those. Promoting me to your communities, and I'm so incredibly grateful. And with that all said, peace in.